Many years ago, in ancient Athens, there was a statue of Nike, the goddess of victory, in a particular area of the Agora, situated just beyond some very tall trees. It was the ideal place for Athenians who had experienced their own success or victory in life to gather in the shade and celebrate together. After a while, an actual small stage was built so that one could bring their friends, family and supporters and stand on the stage and give a speech explaining the details of your success while you were toasted and while feasting took place. The stage was maintained over the years, but the statue became worn down by time and by weather. After a while, you could no longer see her features, and pretty soon the statue became so worn that it was imbalanced and kept falling over. One wing after another broke off the goddess of victory, and pretty soon there was only rubble in a place where the statue once stood. Athenians, however, still gathered in the same place, not knowing that the stones beneath their feet once stood beside them as a symbol of their success. It was a beautiful, sunny summer's afternoon when Anatole, a man of noble birth, gathered with his friends and family to have their own celebrations. Behind them, small children played and frolicked amongst the trees with a red leather ball. Amongst them, an unusual figure joined in the fun, as Socrates let himself engage in the frivolity. Anatole took the stage, while a fabulous feast and the finest wine were served before him to those gathered. His speech started with great poetry and eloquence. My friends, my supporters, I trust that as the gods have supported me and chosen me through grain today, you, in the future, will reflect their wisdom by doing the same with pottery. Laughter and happiness spread across the crowd at this comment. This was a beautifully poetic way of Anatole expressing his ambitions for the future. In those days, the minor political positions were chosen by a form of lottery. Those who were able to take part would draw a grain from a bag. If they got a brown grain, they had the position. If they got a white, they had been rejected. Anatole evidently had been given the post through lottery, which would be a minor position in the Athenian government. But his statement made clear that for him, this was going to be a springboard, a foundation to build upon in the future. For the more senior and powerful positions were chosen through election, whereby pieces of broken pottery were used and the names of the candidates were written by people upon these pieces of pottery as a means to vote for them. His speech continued in a similar vein. His words, evidently well crafted, memorized, and put together to say exactly what his audience would want to hear. This went on for some time. As the sun went through the sky, the feasting and the speech continued. But Socrates had become tired by the energy and athleticism of his companions. And thus the philosopher started to make his way out of the wooded area and to walk through the celebration as if it wasn't there. Anatole was just finishing his speech. And thus I must summarize for you. It is my sincere belief that whatever rule a man will govern how he rules when he gains power. If he is driven by personal ambition, that once he is in a position of authority, he will use that in order to gain for himself and for his family. I, however, am ruled only by good intentions for all, and believe that the position of a statesman or a politician is one of service. So, if you support me in the future, know that a vote for Anatole is a vote for virtue ruling and governing Athens. The crowd responded with great applause. As that applause died down, Anatole continued. Thank you. Now, I must now adieu with my good lady wife. It has been great hardship for me working lately, and we are due to holiday far in the country. But upon my return, the celebrations will continue, for you are all invited to a fabulous feast and entertainment at our personal residences. Socrates heard this and froze. The crowd also froze. Anatole's fearful gaze upon the philosopher's back drew their attention to his stillness. As Socrates slowly turned to look towards the stage, both of the figures standing upon it shifted uncomfortably. When he spoke very gently, but his gaze was unwavering. O great Anatole! A man moved only by good intentions is a rare thing. It is an honour to meet someone with such purity. Because this is such a rare opportunity, I ask that I may please put some questions to you so that I may learn. Anatole didn't respond quick enough, and Socrates continued. Of course, a man such as you seeking election must welcome questions from someone such as me who is able to vote. Ask away, Socrates. I would be most interested to hear what I may say to you. O great Anatole, I must ask if a man of virtue would value the life of an innocent and vulnerable child over his own personal pleasure. Anatole looked at the crowd as if the answer would be with them. He couldn't see how he could get this wrong if he just agreed, but he knew there was more coming. Yes, of course, Socrates, of course, a noble person would always put another before themselves. This is the fundamental basis of virtue. Very good. Then may I ask you, I know of a young girl. She is just 4, maybe 5. She lives on the outskirts of Athens. Her family is very poor. They are just farmers with a little land. When she was young, she suffered from an injury, damage to her skull. She now has fits and confusion. It is known that at a specific Asclepion or hospital many miles from here, there are specialist therapists who will be able to help her with this injury. This is something I have seen during my time of military service. I know that this could help her. She, however, does not have access to this. They cannot afford to travel or to pay for the priests, for the doctors, for the treatment there. Would this then not be a more noble dedication of your funds than your own holiday? Anatole sighed. He tried to cover up his disappointment. He knew that there would be something in Socrates' questioning that would test him, and missing a holiday wouldn't be too bad. After all, this was the kind of gesture that the crowd may appreciate. Of course, Socrates, of course, come to my residence more, we will make the arrangements. This is a very good idea. I appreciate this. I have some further questions. Worthy Anatole, thank you for confirming what I suspected may be true. But now may I ask you, is it not then the case that someone such as you, with a great wealth and influence at his disposal, whenever he chooses to holiday, to feast, to dress in fine clothing, is stating that he values his own pleasure, status and position above the lives of those who are vulnerable and less fortunate? Anatole looked on in horror. I believe we can conclude this is correct, said Socrates. Then, must it not be true, worthy Anatole, that someone such as you, who wishes to live just by virtue and to set a good example, now knows that if he wishes to rule, the only honest way to do so is to clothe himself in the most basic of clothing, live in the most humble of abodes, and to put all that extra money that was once spent on pleasure and appearance to genuinely helping those who are most in need. Socrates didn't expect an answer, but turned and walked, leaving the crowd with their fine wine resplendent clothing, and great position and wealth to contemplate his words.